Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about quite a fascinating book. That is The Mysteries of the Great Cross of Hendaye. And the subtitle is Alchemy and the End of Time. This book is written by two authors, Weidner and Vincent. Here is the cover. It was written a few years ago, but it's still available. It's quite a thick book. It's 500 pages. It's a truly fascinating book. And Vincent is a historian, so it's very well researched. This book is actually based on another book, a former book that was published during the 1920s, and I'm going to talk about that book as well. And I will probably talk about the book that this is mainly based on first, and then I will talk about what is in this book. So here is this book, The Mysteries of the Great Cross of Hendaye. Now this book is based on previous research of an Italian alchemist by the name of Fulcanelli. And the previous book was published during the mid-1920s, and that book is still available too. And it's available in different publications by different publishers, so that's good news. So the Mysteries of the Great Cross of Hendaye is still available, and so is the previous book by Fulcanelli. And here is the cover page of the Fulcanelli book, which was originally written in French, and then it was later translated into English. And the cover page here says Fulcanelli, Master Alchemist, and the title of the book is The Mystery of the Cathedrales, but of course that is in French. And this version that I'm showing you, the cover page here, this one was translated from the French by Mary Sauder. So the background of all of this is to do with the book by Fulcanelli, who was a bit of a mystery person. He was an alchemist, he was an esotericist. And in 1926, he gave a manuscript to a pupil of his to publish. And that is what this book called The Mystery of the Cathedrales by Fulcanelli. That's the manuscript that was published during the mid-1920s, in about 1926, when it was first published in French. So the book by Fulcanelli, the subtitle of the book is Esoteric Interpretation of the Hermetic Symbols of the Great Work. And there is another subtitle that says A Hermetic Study of Cathedral Construction. And by this is meant the cathedrals of Europe, and particularly Notre Dame, and particularly the stone carvings that are on the outside of the Notre Dame Cathedral. So that's what the book is mainly about. And one of the chapters in the book, there's about 6 chapters of the Fulcanelli book, and it's not all that thick. It's only about 130 pages, but it's quite an important book. And there is a chapter about the cyclic cross of Hendaye. And that was a later chapter to the book. Now, Hendaye itself is a small village town in Basque country, which is near the border of Spain and France. So that's the area that we're talking about where the cross of Hendaye is. Nothing much is known about the cross at Hendaye. All that's really known is that it was built before 1842 because it was in the grounds of an old church and moved further further around the area, across the area in 1842. So that's all that's really known. Any of the documents about who built the cross at Hendaye have been lost over time. So that in itself is a mystery as well. And one of the incredible alchemical pictures that are inside the Fulcanelli book is this one here of the crow and the skull. So that's one of the front pages inside the cover of the Fulcanelli book. Now, the cross at Hendaye itself, I'll show you a photograph of how this looks, and this is also inside the Fulcanelli book. This is how it looks. It's a stone monument. It's quite tall. This is the cross at the top. Then there's a pillar, and then there is a stone pedestal, a square stone pedestal with carvings on it. Really quite alchemical, mysterious carvings are on each side of the cubic pedestal. So you have the Hendaye cross at the top, or the equal-armed cross at the top, then the column or pillar, and then the cubic stone pedestal. It's all stone, it's all carved. It's also known as the cyclic cross of Hendaye. So that's what it looks like, and you can see this on the cover. There's lots of photographs inside the book as well, black and white photographs. So there is information in here, of course, because this is mainly about not only the mystery of the cross at Hendaye, but there's other things in here too. So I'll give you an idea of what is in the book, in this book by J. Weidner and Vincent Bridges. So where the subtitle of this book is Alchemy and the End of Time. Alchemy in this context with the book is mainly to do about the alchemy of time and the true meaning of how alchemy and time and the perception of time and the millennial ideas and theories can be tied in with alchemy. So it's not the usual type of alchemy book. There's a lot of things in here, but it's not all about alchemy. So I wanted to say that in case people think that they are buying a book that's going to be all about alchemy. So it ties in with alchemy, but it's not the type of alchemy that you would normally associate with alchemy books. So I wanted to say that, point that out. Now to talk about the different chapters, and it's divided into different parts. It's divided into 6 parts. So part 1 is called the Fulcanelli Mystery, because he was a mysterious figure himself. So it's not just the mystery about the cross at Hendaye that is to do with Fulcanelli. It's the whole mystery and how the Fulcanelli book can tie in with the secret of alchemy. And when I was saying before in general that the book is not mainly about alchemy, the best way I can sum this up is that it is really about Christian Cabala. And when I talk about or mention Christian Cabala with the letter C, so Cabala spelt with the letter C, which is different to Jewish Cabala and it's different to Hermetic Cabala, the path that I follow. And there's also some Rosicrucianism in here as well, but that's not as obvious. So anyway, I will talk a bit more about what is in here, but the Mysteries of the Great Cross of Hendaye includes quite a few concepts and ideas in different areas, different esoteric areas, including information or theories about the Templars. So if you like the idea of Christian Cabala, a little bit of Rosicrucianism and the Templars, then you'll get more of an idea of what this book is really about. So part 1 is the Fulcanelli mystery, about the person, a bit about the person himself, the author, and what he was trying to say in his book about the esoteric secrets and how they tie into alchemy. Part 2 is Gnosticism, so how the Gnostic ideas tie into this. Gnosticism is a very broad subject. A lot of people think there was only one type of Gnosticism, but there wasn't. There are a lot of different groups and philosophies, different branches of Gnosticism. So that is in part 2. Part 3 is the Knights Templar and the Grail, and how this ties in to the carvings and the symbolism that are not only to do with the cross at Hendaye, but to do with the cathedrals of Europe, and particularly Notre Dame. So part 3 is the Knights Templar and the Grail. So you have an idea of that background history, which sets the scene for the medieval period and the thoughts and ideas that were around during the building of Notre Dame. Part 4 is the stone carvings of Notre Dame, which were created by medieval stonemasons. And these carvings are quite alchemical in nature. The symbolism is quite alchemical. So this is one of the main areas. It's really to do with alchemical symbolism. This book is really about that. Part 5 is the message or code of the cross at Hendaye, trying to decipher the symbolism on the cross at Hendaye itself. So there's carvings on the actual equal-armed cross, and there are carvings on the stone cubic pedestal that it's based upon. And this is all about trying to decipher that symbolism. And then part 6 is the myths of time of other world cultures. So this is trying to relate the message or the code of the cross at Hendaye in relation to the myths of time from other world cultures. I think part 6 is where I think there's a lot of conjecture and a lot of speculation. For me, the theory gets drawn a bit too wide in part 6. It's worth reading and comparing, but for me, I think comparing this with other world cultures, with their myths of time, for me, doesn't make quite as much sense as all the other previous parts of the book. Then after part 6, there is an epilogue, which is all to do with the mystery identity of Fulcanelli himself. That's quite interesting too. And not only the mystery identity of Fulcanelli, but the fact that he disappeared. He disappeared after he gave this manuscript to his pupil in around 1926. So, all in all, this is a fascinating book. I think, because one of the authors is a historian, it's very well researched. And it's also very interesting from an esoteric point of view. So it's particularly worth getting if you want something different and interesting. It is a fascinating book. All the different sections of the book are interesting to read. I suppose the only other thing I could say here is I was not able to see a full correlation with Christian Cabala with this. I think that theory is a little bit wide for me too. I think this has got more to do with other esoteric ideas. The Templars were such a mysterious order or group that it's not known for certain whether there was Christian Cabala attached to the Templars in relation to that. Christian Cabala was more connected with the later Rosicrucianism of the Renaissance, and the Renaissance is discussed in the later half of the book. So I think it is definitely a book to consider, as I was saying, if you are particularly interested in the Templars. There's some Rosicrucianism in here, and the Christian Cabala ideas of trying to tie that in. I think it's more about the alchemical symbolism. The alchemical symbolism and the Knights Templar. I think that is the most interesting part of this book. So here is The Mysteries of the Great Cross of Hendaye by J. Weidner and Vincent Bridges. I will put the details below the video, and it is still available. It also makes a great reference book, seeing it is 500 pages. And I'll also put the details about the Fulcanelli book, because I think if you can get that, and it is available in different versions, if you can get the Fulcanelli book as well, I think it really helps to give a good basis. And I don't think you have to have the Fulcanelli book. I find the Fulcanelli book just as interesting, equally as interesting. It's a different type of book, but it's relatively easy to read. I'm not saying any of these esoteric books are easy, but it's relatively easy to read because it was written in 1926. But if you just want to get the Mysteries of the Cross of Hendaye, if you want to just get that book in itself, that could be more than enough for a lot of people. So I'll put the details below the video, and I hope you enjoyed hearing about this book. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.